how do we ensure that our therapists are billing what they should be billing? Talking about Strata EMR really being billing aware and being able to take a lot of the back end payer rules and requirements and industry regulations to bring that to the front end. So therapists can be much more proactive in terms of the treatment that's being provided and making sure that it's actually going to be reimbursable.
Kick it.
Welcome to Strata Demos. My name is Thomas Schreiber, and I'm Director of Marketing here at Strata. Strata is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. On today's demo, I'm joined by Adam Peacock, the Chief Revenue Officer at Strata. And today we dive into how Strata EMR can help your clinic grow, specifically when it comes to clinical documentation and reducing the time it takes to document. If you'd like to learn more about Strata, head over to stratapt.com or email us at hello@stratapt.com. Now, without further delay, here's today's demo.
So when we talk about, again, the EMR, Strata EMR, and it's often say the industry obviously didn't need just another EMR. And I think that's fair to say. And a lot of practice owners and consultants would agree with that. But I think what the industry did need is a EMR that was, again, what we call billing aware, that was built around the idea of how do we make sure that practices are collecting every dollar owed? How do we, not only making sure they're getting paid, but how do we improve the experience for their patients? Whether that's making it easier for them to pay their bills, easier to schedule appointments. How do we improve the morale for practice owners, operators, and the rest of their team by allowing them to use a single system to manage the practice day to day? And all this rolls down to, eliminating multiple system dependencies, in order to have an EMR that's not only, regardless of what stage you are in the practice, it's designed to allow you to continue to scale. And if your goal is to continue to grow and add additional locations or add additional clinicians, then the platform is designed to support that without without adding additional fees and software fees that we often see. But at the end of the day, practice owners, as margins have gotten tighter with reimbursement that's declining over the years, the need to run more lean and more efficient has never been more important. So clinical documentation, that's always been, over the years, how do we reduce the amount of time it takes for clinicians to document? One of the $1 million questions is always, hey, how long does it take for us to do an initial evaluation? Or how long does it take to do a daily note or a progress note in Strata EMR? There's a lot of different variables there, of course. But the other question that's not often asked is, how do we ensure that our therapists are billing what they should be billing, based on all the different payer rules, whether that's Medicare, Aetna, Blue Cross, certain CPT code combinations. And that's where, when we go back to, talking about Strata EMR really being billing aware and being able to take a lot of the back end payer rules and requirements and industry regulations to bring that to the front end. So therapists can be much more proactive in terms of the treatment that's being provided and making sure that it's actually going to be reimbursable. Now, the other side of that too is clinical compliance. Obviously, as the continues to be more and more important as different payers roll out different rules in terms of different compliance requirements. And we've seen that just recently. You look at what United Healthcare, for example, rolled out with the time in and time out requirement. We look at things like that as they come about and say, how do we make it easy for a practice to automatically alert or require the therapist to enter time in and time out? In the past, they haven't had to. And when Medicare discontinued the need to put, time in and time out. So now it's a matter of clinicians having to retrain their brain to figure out, hey, for this payer, I have to include time in and time out. For this payer, I don't. For this payer, I can document, I can provide this treatment. For this one, I can't. There's a lot of different moving parts. And again, that's when we look at, providing that real-time payer, feedback based on those rules. And it really just adds a lot of safeguards, again, to facilitate a clean claim process and make sure practices are getting paid everything they're owed. Now, on the clinical, efficiency side of things, you also, the ability to be able to customize and create very specific protocol templates. At the end of the day, we've recognized for many years that every practice, operates a little bit differently. They have different patients they focus, whether it's a neuro practice, an ortho practice, more that's focused on women's health or pediatrics. So the ability to create very specific custom protocols, is another big part of just bring greater clinical efficiency to these practices. Clinical compliance is always going to be one of those painful manual processes for practices. Over the years, there's been a lot of days, a lot of hours that have been spent for clinicians or owners or operators that are doing chart reviews. So another big piece of what we've really implemented here with Strata as it relates to the documentation is being able to make sure set up the templates, set up the documentation in a way that can be made to ensure that it's compliant for specific payers even. So we all know CMS has very specific clinical documentation requirements that are required. A lot of the commercial payers as well. And at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how do we make sure that I's are dotted, T's are crossed, without having to get into a situation where a medical necessity review is done. They review that documentation and it's missing half of the things that are required. So clinical, taking a lot of that, what's been known to, and what's really, where practices have spent a lot of time in the past doing a lot of reactive chart auditing. We've taken that and put that up on the front end by, again, setting up this clinical documentation in a way where it's much more proactive and doesn't allow that documentation to be actually completed or submitted for billing until it's, we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's.
Thanks for listening to another Strata demo. Strata is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. If you'd like to learn more about Strata, head over to stratapt.com or email us at hello@stratapt.com.